crispy.
What's up, y'all, and welcome back to another episode of Figures in Action. And I'm starting backwards. I actually wanted to record this segment and then put it at the end of the video, but I think what I'm going to do is put this at the very beginning of the video. As I introduce this new, this new dial that I've created. And I think it's going to Illinois, I'm pretty sure. So a lot of times, I wanted to start the video this way because I think a lot of times what happens is, as long as I've been doing these videos, I understand that people jump in and jump out and you know, they find out about my channel, about, you know, about these dioramas that I create. And even my friends sometimes get a little confused as to what I do. Because my boy the other day was like, so you make these like for what? Like what specifically for what? So these dioramas that I create are generally for action figure photography. So action figure, the way I explain it for the most part is, if you was to take a comic book and you open up a comic book and in one of the pages Wolverine is slashing away at Sabretooth, what you would do is try to create that panel. So comic book pages have panels, so you would try to recreate a panel or two or three. It just depends on what you're looking to do. But what you're doing is you're using action figures, props, dioramas, all in scale. So these action figures, for the most part, not everyone, but me, and for the most of the dials that I create are for 6-inch figures, which is a 1/12 scale. So basically I create these, I send them out, and then the new owner will set up a shot like this. In this particular case, we just have Captain America. He's looking over his collection of motorcycles, trying to decide which one he's going to take out tonight, and just getting ready to I guess assemble some Avengers. And in this case, we use different props to just make the scene look a little more realistic. So in this particular case, I added, you know, his shield just leaning on an old table, or just placed on an old table, and then you have some, you know, water and a Pepsi and a Coke, because, you know, he goes both. He's not just doing one. Just a baseball bat that you would probably find in a warehouse somewhere, and a couple of gas canisters, so, and some tools that are on the floor. So to give it that look of he's been in this warehouse, this garage for a little bit, and he's getting prepped, getting ready to go out there. So this is the purpose of creating these dioramas, is so that people can just do their own action figure photography. There are times where people create or have me create these, and they're strictly for just to display. So what they'll do is, like, you know, I've shown the Detolf a bunch of times. So they'll display you know, a diorama inside one of their shelves, and they'll put some figures on it, and it'll stay there forever. Versus you know, others who kind of keep recreating, using the same diorama. They'll find different ways of making, creating new shots. This particular, well, you know what, we'll get into the dio in a second. Just wanted to explain this portion of it, and then the next segment will be just the diorama by itself with no props or anything, and then we can talk a little bit about the creation of this particular diorama that's pretty big. I'll be right. Alright, y'all, and we are back with just the dio. I've taken all the props, the action figure, took the scene out, and just put the pillars back up. So let's go over this diorama. I was contacted by a gentleman who is an action figure photographer, and he hit me up and said he likes my work. He's been seeing my stuff up for some time, so it was time for him to pull the trigger, and he was interested in a warehouse. One of the main things with this warehouse is he just wanted the coil door, the roll down door, to be removable. That was like his main thing, and he also had a very specific set of dimensions in terms of how big he wanted this to be, and this is a big boy. I believe this is 22 inches across, I want to say 16 inches deep and 14 inches tall. So this is larger than what I normally build. These bigger ones are harder to box up and a little more expensive, just because you're dealing with more space and so forth. So I don't generally get commissions for bigger ones like this. But this was a much needed commission that was thrown my way. A lot of what I've been doing lately has been, best way to explain it has been dioramas that need to look, to have a certain look, and sometimes those dials where and I'll give you an example. So the next video you're gonna see is of a oh man, one of the most difficult dioramas I've ever created. At first look, it's not going to look that difficult at first view, but it actually was, because a lot of those type. But you know, for example, it's an office, so it's a loft office, so you have to be very precise with everything. Well, with these, you don't have to be as precise, and what I mean by that is clearly with the brick lines and the lines, you have to be precise, and that's pretty easy. But when it comes to the paint job, when it comes to the flow of it, it can be a little more loose. So again, I love when people hit me up and give me kind of just that carte blanche. Just, you know, this is, I have these dimensions, make sure that the roll down door is removable. After that, do what you want. So I hit him up and I said, you know, this is my idea, let's have 2 larger windows. And oh, he wanted actually 6 of these. After kind of looking at everything, 6 would be a little bit too much. So what I did is I did 4 of these and then 2 of these guys that are removable as well. So let's go through this. I'll start off with these pillars and then we can get into the crux of this. So these guys are pretty much just this is the skinny foam. And when I say the skinny foam, I mean, you know, people ask me this all the time, like, what do you mean by skinny foam? And this is what I mean by skinny foam here. This stuff that you get, you know, you peel the paper off of it. So got 4 pieces of that, as you can see, surrounded this 1 inch by 1 inch foam, insulation foam piece. And then what I did is I actually used spackling to try my best to eliminate the lines. And I think I did a pretty good job with it. I mean, you can see him from up top, but if you're at this angle, you really can't see him. So he wanted 4 of these, so pretty much easy peasy. You surround them with the skinny foam board, and then I used the comb here to make it look like it's their wood. Created 4 of these guys, and they can stand. They're not magnetized or anything. They can pretty much stand wherever you want to put them. So it gives them the ability to kind of switch it up a little bit so he can decide what he wants to do with them. So let's take those 4 out. Then these guys here, again, not permanent. I tried to make them as tall as, so I try to make them in a way where it reaches here, but there's a little bit of, you know, you can wiggle it a little bit so it's not kind of denting up the bottom space here. So this is just a thick piece of dowel rod, painted and just pretty much glued into a 1 by 1.5 piece of insulation foam. I just did the yellow there just to kind of give it a little bit of contrast. It's just the black and white just wasn't, I wasn't feeling it. As I sat there and looked at it, I was like, man, that would look cool if it had a little bit of yellow on it. And that's what I did. So I created 2 of these guys, and he can place them anywhere along there. He can place them anywhere. I mean, if you get a right shot where you don't see the you know, the top of it or more than the top of it, you could be good. So those 2 pieces. And then this was the dial without any of the pillars, any of the yeah, it's big. Let me see, where do we start? So oh, you know what, let me stop recording for a second because I'm about to run out of time and I need to delete some of the videos. So let's stop for 1 sec. We'll get right back into this. Alright, I'm back. Yeah, I was just running out of memory. Alright, so let's go through the step by step. So insulation foam board. This is the skinny foam. I actually used the Proxom to kind of angle it there, as I didn't want it to kind of be a hard edge there. This is balsa wood. These are these things here, which are just half pearls, I guess, just pearls that are cut in half, and they have an adhesive at the back of them, but that adhesive kind of sucks, so I just have to use my own adhesive. Why do I have issues with saying the word adhesive? So that's what those are. So just wanted to make it look like it was some metal work in the middle of the dial. Also to just break up the yellow and the lemongrass, because that's the official color of this yellow is lemongrass. To break up the lemongrass and the white, I figured that would be a good choice. And I think it definitely made it pop. So I went with coloring the frameworks for the windows, the exact same color, as well as the frame of the roll down door. And then over here, instead of making it, you know, making it look like metal work on this end, I just did a cement piece, just painted in black, so that it continues that excuse me, that theme. So again, skinny foam board, balsa wood, those little half beads. Over here, same deal, balsa wood. This is actually framed all the way up. So this part here is the foam, but this is wood and that's wood. And then I used one of those thicker kind of vellum sheets for the back, or excuse me, for the window. As these are much easier to glue and they're not paperish or anything like that. So while this is more of a paper, but I like the look of this, which kind of has the white stains that comes like that comes with this vellum paper. So I wanted to use some of that in this dial, but same deal here, just a black frame here, black frame, black, all basswood. Down here there was no basswood used whatsoever. It was just the frame of the foam, just slicing it to make it look like it's part of it. Over here what I did is I used a stir straw and I spray painted it, and then those are two pieces of skinny foam, and then I had one of these guys. So just cut out the electricity outlet and yeah, put that there. But I wanted to, it's funny because as I was building this, I was like, yo, it'll look really cool if we do one of those outlets that are more for these type of spaces. So did that. Some signage there, and these do have the aluminum tape backing. But just wanted to set up some signs. Then what I did is I actually, because I think I showed it to, I forgot who I showed it to, but it was like, oh, you painted the brick. Actually, that's not, it is painted. But what I did is I took some duct tape and I put it on the yellow. I ripped it out and it was just pink. But because I had put the spackling first before I painted this in yellow, I put the spackling first, let that dry, then I painted in yellow. So when I ripped off the yellow, the spackling was still in place. So I just went and painted those bricks individually, and the idea was to make it look like the paint was chipping off. And I think it came out pretty good. I like how it ended up coming out, and I like that I didn't like overuse it. Sometimes I'll do something, I'm like, oh man, it looks pretty good, let me keep doing it, and then it just kind of looks like it's too much. So I liked it that I only used on the back wall those two smaller, bricks coming through. Then I did one towards the bottom, and just a tiny one up top. And then what I did is I actually have, every time I airbrush, this is funny. So every time I airbrush, I have this little, you can probably see it back there. It has that yellow top. I think at one point there was Lysol wipes in there or something like that. I've had that for years, and what I use it for is when I clean out my airbrush, I run the water through the airbrush gun and into that little thing, and I haven't dumped it out for years. And every time I open it, I think it's gonna be like stale water or moldy or something, and it's never that. So what I did is I took a brush and I started dipping into there, and what it did is that it gave me that effect. Where it came on, it looked kind of dark when I painted it on there, and then when it dried, it kind of looked just like water stains, which is exactly the look I wanted to achieve. So I was able to do that, and that was great. The original picture that I was shown for this dio had a couple of these overhangs, and I didn't want to do that because then I wasn't sure how although it's 22 inches across, if let's say we would have gone another 4 inches here or 3 inches here, I just feel like it would have just got crowded. So I decided to just do it on one side. So he does have that effect of kind of that overhanging piece, but it's not crowding the diorama. And again, because I knew this was for action for photography, I always try to take stuff like that into account. Let's try to set up as many different angles that he can use out of this piece. So it's great because you can use something there where that wall is pretty much just an empty wall, but it can change so much by just putting a couple of these guys there, and all of a sudden I went from an empty wall to something you can do a little more with. Same thing on that side, same thing if you're angling it from here, you're angling it from there. He wanted kind of not necessarily an abandoned dial, but he wanted something that was really used, really kind of old, and So just put a crack in the window there. Was debating on whether I should have just, I don't know, put some boards to kind of repair it, to make it look like this is still being used and they're just being cheap and they're not going to replace the glass. But I was like, nah, I'll just leave it. And that's an option that he has. I mean, a lot of times, or all the time, whenever you end up buying a dial, it's your dial. You can adjust it. You can do things to it. You can darken it up. You can lighten it up. You can add more debris. Whatever you want to do, it becomes your dial. I totally understand not wanting to mess with somebody's artistic view or what have you, but at the end of the day, if it's something where it's going to serve you better by having a particular piece out, I don't know, highlight in any way, then you should be able to do that. And in terms of debris, what I did is just... I've used this before. It was these tiny little pebbles, so I kind of glued them into place. So it just looks like a little bit of dirt and grime in the corners, and kind of extend it a little bit into that corner. But you can see it better here. Yeah. And then wanted to do the stains that I've done before from just vehicles going in and out, just the oil stains. And this is just a watered down brown. So just put a little bit of a melted chocolate brown and then some water. And then add a little black for the darker touches. Yeah, and that's pretty much the gist of it. I haven't done this in a bit, but let's do this. Let's break it down. Break it down. So we have this wall. So this is just one piece. It's just glued on there, but it's cut short here so it fits into place. And I've done this before where I dipped the dials dipped a little bit, or this wall is dipped down versus kind of it's sitting on top, where that one is sitting on top. This one is sitting a little bit below. And what it does, it just allows me to continue, you know, to have this bigger space, 22 inches, and give him enough space while still wanting to keep it as sturdy as possible. And I think this creates a sturdier feel, or a sturdier dial, and so that it can kind of support this side, because this is going to be a little more flimsy, where this one's going to be a little tighter because of just the setup that it is, apparently. Because I've done these before, and it's always worked out better when one of them is on top and one of them is here, because when I've done both of them just kind of to the side, for whatever reason, it just doesn't magnetize as well. I don't know. Maybe it's just a me thing. Maybe I haven't done it enough. But so we have this wall, boom. Then we have this wall. Then we have the back wall. Oh, sorry. This is in fact removable. So he can remove that piece. That's one of the things that he wanted, was to be able to remove that piece so he can do more with it. And what I did actually with this one, I've never really done this. I magnetized it, because when I cut it at a little bit of an angle, and it wasn't staying in place as well as I wanted it to. So I just ended up magnetizing it, so it's, you know, you can kind of just place it there so it works out that way. So this is the back one. There you can see the difference of color before the airbrush and then after the airbrush. Pretty drastic, actually. Yeah, but that's what it looks like. Pre-airbrush was that bright, and I definitely didn't want it that bright. So, and then the last piece is the floor. Same thing. You can see the difference of the floor color with the airbrushing versus no airbrushing. Yeah, and this one is a wrap, and heading to Illinois. So let me know if you guys have any questions, comments, leave them, and I'll hit y'all back, and I'm out. Peace.